Sir, you're about to see something really special.
Really thought this part of my life was behind me. Frenzy disappeared with the drinking 3 years ago. Why now? This makes no sense, and I'm right on the verge of freaking out.
Back from your life,
these people can be animals.
what you burn,
Thingy's out.
some bitter things you should never
Good cheese.
learn. Wallow through the days.
Remember, cosplay's not consent.
So here's to me. Congratulations, me. Yay, me.
This would all be so much easier if I was hammered. Hammered.
Won't be there anymore. You can take away the anger, but you leave behind the pain. It's your soul I
New ventures are always scary.
feel till I'm melting
Blah, blah, blah. Something positive and uplifting.
tomorrow. But the hurt will still remain. In your soul I'll live forever till I'm melting in.
Don't miss our new film, The Love Song of William H. Shaw, coming soon to a streaming service near you. Hey everyone, this is Cliff from Talking Pondo. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up about spoilers on the show. We do talk about the films in a certain amount of detail, so you may want to watch the film first and then come back if you're not a fan of spoilers. Also, every now and then there's a little bit of adult language, so we wanted to give you fair warning on that. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we really appreciate you listening. Welcome to Season 2 of Making Pondo and Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty give each other a film to watch and talk about them in detail. Some episodes will include a special guest. Making Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty talk to people they have worked with and discuss their experiences on set. All right, that's us. We're back.
Oh, wow. I guess we are back. One more time, Talking Pondo, Season 2, wrapping it up. Episode 36, Episode 72 overall. 2 classics this week. We're going Oscar winner week with 2 Best Actor movies in a row. 1953's Stalag 17, 1954's On the Waterfront. I'm Marty, as always.
I'm Cliff. That's a hell of an intro, man.
Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, you sat down, you hit record, I'm like, oh shit, we're on. Okay. That's good, though. It's good to jump right into it, you know.
Agreed. It's like you said. It's Oscar week, so it's a couple of, and right before the Oscars.
That's true. I didn't even think of that.
But it's going to be. I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. But these are 2 big films, 2 very, very big movies. This is your big fireworks show, folks, for the end of the season. Wanted to go out with a bang, and I think we picked two great movies to do it with.
Right. And I think it all comes full circle with this week's choices as well. As we'll discover as we go further along, I don't want to let the entire cat out of the bag right away. But yeah, we'll be back next week with the beginning of the next season. So don't think we're taking any time off, because we never do. I mean, we do in real life, but as far as you know, the shows are made every week. And so we'll be starting the next season with more talking with guests. We're going to have more guests on more often.
Yep.
And Making Pondo will come back at some point. But for now, we see that you all like it when we bring guests on who talk about movies, and we like it too. So we're going to have more of that. And so tune in next week, Sunday at 11 o'clock at night, or whenever it is these shows drop, if you want to watch it while it's on. And you'll get a special guest who will be revealed then. We already know who it is, but
yes,
we're going to let you wait.
We're excited.
We'll also, yeah, it is exciting.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back the week after that with your favorite Talking Pondo, which is pretty much the name the show will become at that point. I've already started rebranding some of it to just Talking Pondo instead of the Making Pondo / Talk, because one format, one out, kind of like beta and VHS. And the funny thing is, we branded everything Making, so now we got to go back and brand it Talking. But that's okay because making still exists too. So
I think we thought that eventually, like, the makings were going to be more than the talkings, and it turned out that the talkings were way more than the makings were, and
Right.
so it's just better to rebrand it talking. Folks, you'll still get a making. Like when we go and make another movie, we'll drag a bunch of people onto the podcast and talk about how we made that movie and what the experience was like, just like we did these others. But for now, it's going to be a lot of talking and a lot of guests and we got some good ones coming up. We got some good guests coming up.
Yeah.
And we've also got some interesting themed months coming up, or themed episodes coming up that'll be good. Look forward to talking Figgy Dowdy. That'll be fun. Like we talked with Dylan.
That ties into 1982.
Yeah. And I can talk about that now since that episode's come out. So
that's true.
Yeah.
And then also in 2 weeks when we come back with just another talking to start season 3's talking part off, we'll do our season recap of this season where we'll reevaluate all the fucking movies we sat through over this last season. There was a bunch of them, and we'll see if we changed our minds.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple that I'll probably end up changing on. I feel like there was a couple I scored a little low, and maybe one I scored a little high. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean like I was high when I scored it. I mean it was the score itself was too high.
I don't do drugs. Drugs do me.
Don't beg me while I'm going to kitchen.
That was one of those movies. So yeah, that's pretty much the housekeeping there. And so I don't know. You want to do chronological? You want to start with Stalag 17 from 1953, which would have come out in 1952, but the studio didn't know how to market it yet or something, according to Wikipedia. They put it out the following year. So
interesting. Yeah, let's do Stalag. All right, so Stalag 17, 1953, rated approved, because we didn't have those types of ratings back then, folks. 2 hours long, and starring William Holden, Don Taylor, and Otto Preminger, who was what a surprise. Directed by directed by Billy Wilder and written by Billy Wilder, Edwin Bloom, Donald Bevan. So after 2 Americans are killed while escaping from a German POW camp in World War II, the barracks black marketeer J.J. Sefton is suspected of being an informer. So that's your log line.
We know him as Cully from SOB. This is his early adventures.
We do know him as Cully from SOB. Storyline: it's a dreary Christmas 1944 for the American POWs.
Merry Christmas! It wouldn't be a Cliff Campbell season finale without another Christmas movie. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I thought that was hilarious when I saw this was yet another bleak film you could watch on Christmas. So I love it. You might make a playlist of just the Christmas movies.
Anyway, where was I? It's a dreary Christmas 1944 for the American POWs in Stalag 17. For the men in Barracks 4, all sergeants have to deal with a grave problem. There seems to be a security leak. The Germans always seem to be forewarned about escapes, and in the most recent attempt, the 2 men, Manfredi and Johnson, walked straight into a trap and were killed. For some in Barracks 4, especially the loudmouth Duke, the leaker is obvious. J.J. Sefton, a wheeler dealer who doesn't hesitate to trade with the guards and who has acquired goods and privileges that no other prisoner seems to have. Sefton denies giving the Germans any information and makes it quite clear that he has no intention of ever trying to escape. He plans to ride out the war in what little comfort he can arrange, but it doesn't extend to spying for the Germans. As tensions mount and mob mentality takes root, it becomes obvious Sefton will have to find the real German agent in their midst, which he finally does.
Yeah, I thought it was the barracks captain. See, the movie was good at misdirecting. I'm like, well, it's obviously this guy, and if it's not him, I'm going to be very happy, and it wasn't, so... And now you think back and you're like, well, it was pretty obvious when you know the answer. But it's a great job of misdirection. I'd never seen it before. I'd heard it referenced many times. We don't get Hogan's Heroes without this. Hell, we don't get MASH without this. Hell, we don't get Animal House without this, which means World War II's directly responsible for the teen sex comedies of the 80s. I'm giving this one honorable Pondo status.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It's a progenitor. Because really, how could Animal House exist without Stalag 17, right?
Yeah.
I even saw Cheech and Chong stuff in this. Oh, I'm blind, man. I'm blind. He's got the
Oh,
beanie over
yeah.
his eyes. I'm like, hey.
When I was a kid, Animal was my favorite character in the film.
Is his name Animal?
Yeah, exactly. I absolutely love him. I love. I've always loved that character. I don't know why. I think the actor's great. That actor, Robert Strauss, was nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role that year.
Oh yeah.
Along with Best Director Billy Wilder, and Holden wins for Best Actor in a Leading Role for this.
Yeah. I think he was saying he was in Sunset Boulevard. Is that right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
So I guess it was one of those where they gave me the Oscar for this one because they didn't give me the Oscar for that one.
The makeup Oscar.
I like this movie more than Sunset Boulevard myself. So
I haven't seen Sunset in a long time. They're very different movies.
Oh, definitely.
This is such a funny movie at times. And also sort of serious and dramatic. Whereas Sunset's kind of like that classic noir.
Mm-hmm.
Not you bring up nihilism in the past, kind of nihilistic picture about the this poor woman, not this poor woman, but this woman in LA or whatever. But yeah, I probably would want to watch Stalag 17 more than I would Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
And I've seen this movie 10 times at least.
Ah.
Yeah, it's one that I caught. Like I said, I think I told you in the last episode what we did. I caught it on a UHF station when I was a kid, and I thought I didn't know that they did Hogan's Heroes before they did Hogan's Heroes. This is Hogan's Heroes. This is Hogan's Heroes. What the is the I mean, that
a bannergram.
That German guard is named Schultz, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, it ties directly to Hogan's Heroes, and we know who made Hogan's Heroes.
Yep.
And what else did he make? The
Godfather.
The star of the other movie today. So it's just crazy how that all Kevin Bacon game just goes and goes and goes. I mean, I think I'm more attuned to comedies of the 30s and the 40s. I thought this movie was funny, of course, but there's still so much of that 50s type Abbott Costello humor where I'm like, okay, guys, I'm sure this fucking killed him at the time, but 2 hours at also another movie that you shouldn't start at like midnight. It gets to be a bit much, but I still really enjoyed it, though. Really enjoyed it.
I love Shapiro and Animals bits. I don't have a problem with that at all. They bring a lot of the it's sort of like, and it's balanced by Joey playing the ocarina. This kind of ham hilarity and the seriousness of war and where they are at and that type of stuff.
Had we gotten that in movies like this type of war satire movie before this? I mean,
I don't
there's probably
think
some
so.
Send-ups, but not serious.
I think this and Catch-22 were kind of some of the early ones to sort of do that. And again, I think Catch-22 had a bit to do with MASH.
That's the 60s, yeah. So
yeah.
But I mean, for 53, 52, it's like, oh wow, that's pretty early to be doing something like this. So I could see how this would major impact, sir.
Major impact, sir. It was a Broadway play, first.
Oh yeah. Wasn't there another movie we just recently did that was a play first? Well, I feel like there was. Maybe there wasn't, but
I think it's quite possible, but I can't remember what it is to save
I'm
my
looking
life.
at the list and nothing's popping out at me. But anyway, still, that's interesting.
I love that Sefton is the only realist in the barracks. Yeah, Tootsie was a play. You're right. You're right.
Okay.
Sefton is the only realist in the barracks. He's the only one who's actually dealing with the situation realistically. The rest of them are sort of, they've all got this, let's dig a tunnel and we'll get out of here type of thing. And it's like, even if you get out, you're in Germany. Where are you going? You're not, I don't know. But he seems to be the most one who's like, look, you're here, you're stuck. You might as well make the best of it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take these stockings and this wine over and meet this Russian lady. Talk to you later.
We're stuck here.
Like
even Stripes, right? Where they're like peeping on the other barracks. And it's like, oh, it's totally, all those guys grew up with movies like this, and so you see their twisted 70s version of Stalag 17 over and over again.
Well, I think this is sort of the iconic army movie. You know, there's a ton of the No Time for Sergeants and a lot of these other type of like slapstick army movies, McHale's Navy, you know, Down Periscope, where it's even goofier. But this is like also is really seriously dealing with the fact that, I mean, they beat Sefton badly in this film.
Right.
They beat him bad. The entire barracks beats him.
And the fucking guy who was hiding in their midst beat him the worst.
Yep.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. I love how distinctive the characters are right from the get-go. Everyone's very different. Everyone's got their own character, their own sense of person. Very much everybody that you deal with, that even people just passing by have this very singular sense of who they are or character in general. There are no kind of cookie cutter people in this film. None. Even the guards.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's got the famous line, "No one has ever escaped from Stalag 17," which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm your buddy. I'm your friend.
I love how the potato soup becomes the day's wash water.
Right.
And when he's cooking that egg and everybody stops to watch him cook that egg.
Like, where the fuck did you get that egg
Where did
from?
you get that egg from?
He just gives it to Joey.
Yeah, he gives it to Joey. My other favorite thing about this movie is that it's kind of those classic East Coast. There's a lot of those classic East Coast accents, like the dude that does Addies, that guy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Animal's got that classic Brooklyn, you know, Queens accent. You know, it's great.
Yeah, you don't get Porky's. There's just so many things that inadvertently spring from this. It makes me realize that all that sex and violence that happens in movies in years like the 70s, it's a response to war.
Mm-hmm.
And the further away from the war you get, the more cringy they say those aspects of the movies feel. And it's like, no, these people were fucking PTSD'd out, and this is their reaction to everything they just went through. And that's why there's a lot of boobs in 80s movies. See, we've solved the question for you. It all goes back to this, because Cliff takes me back to film school this week on Talking Pondo.
Sugar Lip Shapiro.
Yeah, it's before Hot Lips Houlihan. Direct lineage. Yeah.
Joey looks like, so there's a couple of weird, there's some this is one of these movies where I think it's quite possible that actors are time travelers, because Joey looks like Tom Green, and the guy that keeps saying I believe it throughout the film, he looks like Adam Driver. That's Adam Driver.
That's Adam Driver in an early role, which will surprise you.
Yeah, it's Adam Driver in an early role.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it.
And there wouldn't be a Adam Sandler, Kevin James without movies like this.
Mm-hmm.
These guys set the template for that stuff.
So did you have any idea who the real snitch was? Did you always thought it was the barracks chief?
I thought it was somebody else, because it misdirected me, and then I realized, oh, that makes sense. Of course. Mm-hmm. Of course it's that guy. It's funny, I'm not spoiling the movie, and yet we spoil everything here, because anyways,
Yeah. Well, the method of delivery, like the way that they communicated, was very slick, kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I love how that's how Sefton catches on. He finally figures it out. And then when he explains it to the group, like there's that scene where he's, at the end of the close to the movie where he's going, and this is how it happened. And see, there was this night, and then they carried the mail, and here's the signal. And he pulls down on that, he knots that cord up, and the whole barracks is looking at him, and you can see the light bulbs going on in their faces where they're like, I've seen that wire like that. I've seen it both up and down. And it never rang in my head. Like why.
Yeah. That's very play-like. Mm-hmm.
Very what?
Like a play. You can see that scene being done on the stage. That makes sense,
Yeah. Well, and of course that makes sense. It was a play first, right?
Mm-hmm. Like somebody was going to catch on to that shit at some point, guys. Somebody's going to fiddle with the chess piece or something, because there's nothing else to do. But they got away with it for a while.
I love that Looney Tunes ass plan that Shapiro and Animal concoct to try and get to the Russian barracks. They just get a white, just get a bucket of white paint and a big brush, and they're just painting the center line down the road. It's so stupid, but also very, very funny and classic for that time period. Like that's a classic gag. I can totally see that.
They look like they're doing something important. We can't interrupt them.
Yeah, no, just leave them alone. They're working. Somebody
must have instructed them to do this.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not going to get in trouble for, interrupting this.
We need to name one of our production companies Manfredi and Johnson Productions. I think that would be pretty cool. It's never boring, but it is a little long.
Yeah, you wanted a nice long movie back then, but,
Yeah. I can see like if this would have been maybe even better at 140, 150, just a touch tighter, but it's good. Everything is there for a reason. Nothing's frivolous by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, the only part of the movie that kind of grinds on me is when the two pilots come in and that dude does all the voices. Like he does, all these.
Yeah.
Okay, we could probably move through this a bit faster.
I was like, how far are we into this? And now we're getting bad impersonation. Yeah, I blocked that part out. That makes sense. No.
For some reason, you remember the Duke, the character Duke? He's the one that had his blood up for Sefton the whole movie. I always have hated that guy. I've hated that character my entire life. I've always rooted against Duke. Like I just think he's a dickhead. Always have ever since I was a little kid. Yeah. They do wear out that Johnny Comes Marching Home song too. I'll give them that. They get their money's worth out of that.
It's realistic though, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What else are you gonna do if you're in the barracks? You're probably gonna sing that song for the extended long 12-inch dance mix version. But do we need to hear it in film? Yes. In 1953, yes, you do.
Yes. The other thing is the placement of the Christmas dance is a bit weird to me because so in the sort of the structure and the flow of the story, we get to the beating of Sefton because of the lieutenant, right? And then soon after we see the wire, Joey and Sefton both see the wire, and Joey's just gone, but he sees it and it clicks for Sefton, but he doesn't do anything about it because he doesn't know who did the wire just yet.
Yeah.
And then they're drinking his booze, and it's Christmas and they're drinking his booze and all this. And at one point Sefton figures it out, right? But there's this weird Christmas party that we have to get through before Sefton can do anything with the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we got to draw it out a little.
It was a weird place to do it. But yeah.
I kept thinking Joey was going to suddenly talk or something.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they didn't do that where it's like, oh, Joey can suddenly communicate because he has the key information. So no, I'm glad they didn't go there. And when he leaves and when he finally escapes and says, if any of you, don't, what does he say? Don't try to contact me, or if you run into me,
act like you don't know me.
And I'm like, oh yeah, it's very Fandango in that respect of, when they all at the very end were just like,
say goodbye.
Now leave me the fuck alone, please. Yeah. But in their case, they stole all his shit. They thought he was an asshole. And it's like, well, I'm the obvious choice. So it's not me. The fact that I gave Joey the egg shows that I'm the nice guy. All right. It's too obvious. You guys just wanted to steal my shit. And then
you guys are just mad I'm training with the Germans and I'm comfy.
And
interrupted your thought process there. My bad.
No, that's what editing is for.
Yeah. When Holden confronts Peter Graves with the chess pieces,
mm-hmm.
That's when the knife fight would break out in the modern version of Stalag 17.
Oh, yeah.
Like there'd be some sort of confrontation at that point, physical altercation. There would have to be.
I know what I was gonna say. They were like, we're sorry, we didn't know it was you, and we're sorry we ate all your stuff. And he was kind of like, yeah, whatever. You don't think nothing of it. It doesn't matter. He's still even after all that, he's not going to hold a grudge against them. Oh, and he created the distillery. I mean, wow. Did MASH take that or what? Right?
Yeah, no shit. He had the mouse races, the distillery.
Oh, yeah.
The telescope into the women's showers. I mean, it, honestly, without Sefton, that's a pretty boring place to live.
Mm-hmm.
He's providing a lot of entertainment.
Yeah, it got real boring there after he left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love how he keeps striking matches on Duke's face.
Oh, yeah.
That's just great. That's so good.
It's like I'm in control. Now go play the washboard some more. I might be a German spy, but I can sit here and play the washboard with the band.
Washboard. So great. Sprechen Sie Deutsch. I really like this movie. I've enjoyed it. It's an easy watch. Mm-hmm. It's well made. It's got great actors and it's well written. It may be showing its age just a little bit to probably people who don't watch a lot of older movies, but to me it's really great. It's a classic for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'd never seen it before, but yeah, it was really good.
What are you going to give it?
I give it 3.5. You reminded me of why I went that low for, and then you get bad impersonation. So there's a few little things but overall it's classic.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, the little things don't really detract that much from it. I think that it's like we talk about, it's a classic. And I think it's like we've also talked about, a jumping point for so many other movies, especially movies about the military and comedies about the military.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go 4 stars.
All right.
Maybe even 4.5. I may thinking about 4.5. I'll wait till our review.
Right. Closing out the season with another 4-star.
Which brings us to On the Waterfront.
But wait, there's another movie. So it was all planned for a long time, people. And I'm glad that it worked out, because it mathematically it feels satisfying that we hit the end of the season with On the Waterfront, because as longtime listeners know, I made Cliff watch all the before movies. And apparently in the last one, they talk about On the Waterfront in that movie, about the guy was writing the book and he had all the different characters going in and out of the screening of On the Waterfront. And apparently that it's one of Linklater's favorite movies, if not his favorite movie of all time. And so I was like, okay, that's one way to segue into it. But we all know the real reason you had to watch this movie, because it may be the ultimate Pondo movie. Because I could have been a contender.
Oh.
Right? His Back Anomaly. We mentioned that was a Pondo movie because it referenced that scene to us. And those guys were doing the fucking speech from On the Waterfront and the party animal.
Does he say I could have been a contender, or does he say I could have been somebody?
He says the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Which also
hilarious.
means Raging Bull and Zapped by proxy are Pondo films because they reference the line as well. I was like, well, how perfect is that? I could have been somebody. I could have been a contender instead of a bum. And because Charlie wasn't looking out for him. But before I get too far into it, what is On the Waterfront?
On the Waterfront, let's see. 1954, also approved. 1 hour, 48 minutes. Directed by Elia Kazan, written by Bud Schulberg, Malcolm Johnson, Robert Siodmak. Siodmak? Stars Marlon Brandon, Carl Malden, Lee J. Cobb, Eva Marie Saint. Let's see. Your logline is an ex-prize fighter turned New Jersey longshoreman struggles to stand up to his corrupt union bosses, including his older brother, as he starts to connect with the grieving sister of one of the syndicate's victims. Your storyline. A longshoreman and ex-boxer named Terry Malloy witnesses a murder perpetrated by his corrupt union. When a beautiful young woman comes into the picture that just so happens to be the murdered man's sister, Terry feels obligated to stand up to his bosses as a result of his recent relations with her. Not those kind of relations.
Yeah, had you ever seen this before?
At some point, yes, but it had been a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like probably in my teens, probably like my late teens or my very early 20s. Last time I remember, because you go through that as a filmmaker, you go through that phase where you're like, well, I should hit all the, kind of stop by all the big classics, and this was one of them.
And I watched it for the first time about a decade ago, so this is the second viewing of it. Just to get this out of the way, this time through, I was like, well, why would he be referencing this movie in Before Midnight? Is there anything there's parallels? And I did notice a few things, like where she's like, oh yeah, of course I remember you, because they knew each other when they were younger, but it reminded me of in Before Sunset, where she's like, of course I remember us having sex. How could I forget that evening? And it's like, you can almost feel like that influence. And of course, the whole lose the battle, win the war, which was my summation of Before Midnight's ending, which is kind of what happens in this movie in a very different type of fashion. But yeah, this is another great one, just like the Stalag movie, 2 years in a row, and also another Best Actor winner. Mm-hmm. And a bunch of other awards this one too. I mean, they gave Eva Marie Saint the actress role, and this is her first movie. And it's like, damn, you're hitting it right out the gate.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's Roz's mom from Frasier.
Oh, wow. And also North by Northwest. She's 100 years old right now, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this won a crap load of Oscars. It won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Oscars, and it was nominated for 12. Best Picture, Best Actor in a Leading Role, which is Brando, Best Actor in a Supporting Role, which is Lee J. Cobb, Best Actor in a Supporting Role. Oh, those are nominee. Both supporting roles were nominated actors, Carl Malden and Lee J. Cobb. Steiger also got a nomination. Eva Marie Saint won for her role. Elia Kazan directed one. Writing was winner for Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography in Black and White, Best Art Direction Black and White, Best Film Editing. Damn. And then, of course, Bernstein was nominated. I was really surprised to see Leonard Bernstein's name as the score. And in the beginning, I was like, I don't hear much Bernstein. And then the more it went on, the more it got kind of crazier, more experimental, and more what I expected from like Bernstein in that area. So that was surprising and very good.
And one of the first 25, I think it was, movies to go into the film registry the first year that happened.
Makes sense. It makes sense. I think it's a very good movie. I could see why people hold it up, to this level of greatness. And I think part of it is because Brando's doing Brando's doing what a lot, like you can see everybody else kind of acting, and Brando's kind of doing what a lot of actors do now.
Yeah.
Which is more, not necessarily method. I know he was method or whatever, but these actors now, they do this kind of hybrid method where they kind of inhabit the character, and they're much more, it's much less performative than it is realistic and organic. Right. And it felt like his performance, like Malden's performance, is very performative, and Eva Marie and Brando both felt much more organic and natural in their deliveries. And nothing against Malden, he's fantastic in the movie. It's just two totally different styles.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't think Brando's style had really been seen on screen. I mean, if you look at people who are acting back then, they're gesticulating largely, and they're projecting, and they're very big because they've all come from the stage or vaudeville or whatever. And he's taking a completely different route from it. Yeah. And it's, and this is like, you can see it. This is the guy who's he's gonna win the Oscar over and over again for a while.
Or I should say, a couple other movies that we watched this season gave me shades of this movie, because this movie predates those. Can you guess what some of those were?
No, I'm terrible at this game.
Well, one of them was one of them was Sorcerer, because remember when Scheider's walking in and he can barely walk to get there at the end, and I'm like, yes, it felt like that in a way.
That's a good call. Yeah, no, that's a very good call. That end where he has to get up and walk. Mm-hmm. Is he dead at the end of that? Does he die, or does he like?
Not in the Waterfront movie, but in Sorcerer. No, he doesn't die in Sorcerer either, because he goes to he gets shot.
And then they kill him. Yeah. Well, he dies, just not at that point.
Yeah. But on the Waterfront, no, it's just they go to work. Because the guy's like, he don't give a fuck. He's like, okay, will you come in here and empty the boat? I don't care about any of your bullshit. Just somebody do the work. It's kind of funny. We have all these battles over here, and this other guy's just like, whatever. Are we ready to do the job or what, guys? And the other one was Ghost Dog, because he's got all his pigeons up on the roof, and then they kill the bird, and it's like, oh yeah, that must have been shades of that in Ghost Dog, I think.
The other one for me was Mitchell. Mitchell's on the corner. You know why?
Oh, because Martin Balsam is
in this fucking movie. Yes, sir.
Totally is. Yeah.
Yes. It's like, oh my God, it's Nostretta.
Mm-hmm.
It's Galano. Which one is it? I can't remember. Yep. Who cares? It's a cold day for pontooning.
Both him and Fred Gwynn are uncredited hidden in this movie.
That was the other one where I was like, oh shit, it's Fred fucking Gwynn. Holy crap. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is like even years before Psycho, so he doesn't look like the Martin Balsam that we know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I noticed that Brando gets the title card before we even know what movie we're watching. We know who it stars, which is, I don't think I've seen that much. Like I don't think I can't recall, because normally it's a blah 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 production, a film by blah blah blah, and then you hit some actors.
Yeah.
To get the title card over the director and the production company is pretty surprising.
Yeah, I didn't catch that, but I suppose it makes sense. They knew what they had.
Mm-hmm.
I read a review that said something like this was a boxing movie in disguise. And I'm like, it kind of is, because he was an ex-boxer, and it follows all those kind of beats. And he's like the original Rocky, he goes the distance. It's like, no, I am going to get up and walk. You could almost hear the Rocky theme playing as he's walking into the dock at the end. Which leads me back to, the whole, I could have been a contender. Discussion. And now, I've heard that line forever, and now knowing the movie and knowing the context of it, it's such a rich sequence, because his older brother is holding a gun on him. And it's like, no, Charlie, no. And he just pushes the gun down, and he tells him like the whole thing, like, man, if I hadn't had to throw that fucking fight, I wouldn't be here right now. And now you're doing this? Yeah. What the fuck? And his brother does finally have a change of heart there.
Well, is this because his brother really? Yeah, it's
realized.
true. I mean, his brother's basically been selling his other brother out to make himself look good in that gang for years.
It's like, fuck, man, I could have been somebody, damn it, but we did all this shit instead.
At the same time, he sets up a guy he knows for the mob. He knows a supposed best kid in the neighborhood. Eva Marie's brother.
I didn't know they were going to kill
best
him.
kid in the neighborhood. And, well, still though.
Yeah. You got to believe me. I didn't know they were going to kill him. That's like the weakest part of the movie, I think, is when he confesses to Eva Marie Saint, but he happens to do it right where all the fucking horns are going off. It's like, oh my God, really? That's a fucking trope and a half. Go somewhere where she can hear you, man. But if that's the only real scene where I was like, what the fuck? That's pretty good, though. I guess you hadn't seen that as much back then, so.
Well, there's a lot of good stuff in here. It's, they send him to this meeting at the church so he can be this menacing presence and report back on everybody. And Malden's there, basically begging them, preaching to them, but he just can't get through their need to self-preservation. And, it's, hey, that guy's sitting back there. I'm not going to, do anything. And then suddenly here comes the, the whoever to beat the crap out of everybody. They surround the church and all that.
Very Poseidon adventure with the Gene Hackman. You got to listen to me.
Yeah. This is back when films had that weird technique of jumping from the medium shot into the close up. on a line read, it would be like there'd be a pause and they'd go jump to the close up on that pause and then bam, we're on the close up of the actor. And I've always found that a little jarring. It happens several times in the movie, but during the when he's talking to her the first time, especially like after they escape from the church, they do that, and it's like, whoa, okay, now his face is suddenly big. I don't see modern movies really do that much anymore, unless it's unless they're doing it a lot. It's cutting style or it's stylistic choice.
Yeah. America could have been somebody. America could have been a contender. That's what he says in The Party Animal, or an approximation, right? Because they're doing the whole Reagan nuke scenario.
So I've actually met somebody who acted in this movie.
Wow.
Pat Hingle is in this movie.
Really?
Yep.
From Maximum Overdrive?
That Pat Hingle.
Wow.
He is Bobo in The Grifters. And when we were working at the
That's right.
the theater in Tucson, he came in and came up to the cafe counter. And I knew who he was right away, and got to talk to him for a few minutes. So that was fun. I didn't know he was in this movie. I just knew he was in The Grifters and a few other things.
Mm-hmm.
I do like this weird sort of running thing that they do, where they're running from the cops and they're running here and they're running there, and then suddenly they burst into this wedding, and they're drinking and eating and dancing and falling in love. I thought that's pretty well done.
Yeah.
I don't mind that, and it feels like something a modern movie would do quite well. A rom-com would do quite well.
It's very alive.
Yeah, it's dated in its execution, but I still love it. It's the basis of. It's got these weird bases of so many movies. So many people have borrowed from this. You see it everywhere.
Yeah,
you just see it everywhere, and I'm not just talking about quoting the movie. I'm talking about, like, again, running away from being in trouble and then ending up in the wedding and that type of thing. That is so classic. It's not even funny. I will say I'm 45 minutes in. I thought the movie was really rolling, but it did feel like I'd been watching it for about an hour. Like it feels a little bit longer than its actual time.
Yeah. It's shorter than the Stalag, and yet feels about the same length.
About the same length, exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. Yep.
And I guess it's another case of they're just cramming everything in, because there's not really a wasted minute in either film. So, but it does feel like it's, that's lived in, though. Because I couldn't think of anything to cut out. I'm not taking the scissors to this or the other movie because I feel like you'd lose something, you know.
This is this is a simple story and I think this is why it's such a good movie, why directors love it and people who make films love it, right? This is at its basic core, a very simple story, right? About a mob and a neighborhood and a doc and a priest and good and struggle of good and bad and greed and self-preservation and these types of things. But this movie, it deals with these big ideas and these big things, and it's like watching it move it with ease and with real grace and just it's like watching a master do like sushi or something, or make noodles or something where it's like it looks so simple and it looks so you make it look so easy. You make it look so easy to do this, and it's not. It's really hard to do. This is not easy, but it looks really simple on film. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look very complicated at all, but it is. And it's again, moving these big ideas like mountains with ease. Just put one here and then put one here. Here you go. Boom. And it's really striking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the trick.
Yeah, that speech Malden gives about an hour and 10 minutes in is just epic. He's just chewing the fucking scenery. Like he's like, here, I'm going to get my Oscar nomination right here. Here we go. Bam. And he just tears it up. It's really great. But his style is so much different than Brando's. Like his delivery style is so much different. It's such a striking difference.
So I guess that bum didn't really want that change after all, huh? Hey, just give me a dime, or he throws a whole handful of money at him and the guy just walks away. It's like,
you're going to buy me.
That change.
Mm-hmm.
Later, that guy takes his job. That is the same guy where they're like, just get me somebody. Here, you.
Yeah, that is him. Yeah. The weird mist everywhere outside is a bit weird. Like, I don't know where that, like every time they go to like away from the dock or onto the streets or whatever, it's always really smoky or misty. And I don't know. Anissa was like, maybe it's the subway grates. I'm like, that much steam? Like, it's a lot of, it looks like fog almost. It was a weird stylistic choice to me.
The movie looks exceptionally crisp. Like you were saying, it feels more modern than it is.
Yeah, it does.
It's like this very sharp look to it. I think it's just the lighting and apparently there's multiple aspect ratios. I guess the Criterion edition has like 3 different ones, but the most common is this open matte that most people are used to. The full frame one that I think is the same one we watched. But yeah, I thought it looks excellent for, I mean, Stalag 17 looks great too, but it's a totally different stylistic look, even though they're both in black and white. But it does make me think that if Stalag 17 was in color, it probably would still be the same excellent movie. Like, I didn't see anything that they were doing with the black and white that really made it bleaker. But on the Waterfront, it's obvious they're using the black and white on purpose, like with the fog. And
yeah. There's that great shot where they're lifting Pops and Carl Malden out of the ship with the crane on the. I love that shot. I thought it was beautiful. Settle a bet for me. Is the the dock shots with the boat in the background and the water? I say that's a matte painting. I say that's a big matte painting with a little bit of water, but. Others just think it's a real boat.
Oh, I'd have to look at it again. But when I was watching, I was buying it. I didn't question.
Yeah, either way. So, either way. But I was just like, I think that's a matte painting. I think
you
it's
might
a matte
be
painting.
Right, though. Mm-hmm.
In a current movie made today, like if they made this today, they would have shot the kid with Johnny at the Polo Grounds. They, like that. That's how it would have gone down. It would have been a little bit, a little more grittier, a little more You know, everybody's, you know, since Godfather and Scarface, most of these gangster movies have to be bloody. You know, most of these types of movies have to be, bloodier.
Wow. So this ties directly to Marijuanos then, by osmosis. We were like a photocopy of a photocopy times 50. Because like you're saying, it became all that gritty and the revenge, and I'm trying to do the right thing. And it really does kind of stem back to movies like this one. Even though Scarface is older, but those are gangster movies of a different era too.
Yeah.
But they lead to things like this, I guess.
The weird drinking of the beers scene was kind of strange. I thought I didn't. It's close to the end of the movie.
Which one? The one where they're on their date, or like isn't there one later? Or
there's one later. Yeah, it's not the one where they're on their date. What was I gonna say here? Oh, I love the shoot of the scene of him telling her the truth, and Malden loving, you know, just sitting there. It's all just sound and reaction. It's super brilliant. It's really, really good. Like they just let the sort of the scene just kind of take place, and you go, God,
I mean, yeah, but that's the part I was ragging on, because I was like, of course he's doing it where she can't hear him. It's all the horns going off. I'm trying to tell you that. I'm like, oh man. But you know, we haven't seen that done that many times back then. So, and I'm sure later, he has to break the door down to explain to her. But yeah, if she finds out the actual truth, then things aren't set up the same later. So. Yeah. But I know what you mean. It's a well done scene, but then there's that cynical part of my brain that kicks in and goes, "Oh God, guys!" it's the bad impersonations of this film. You know, it's got that little spot, because nothing is perfect.
I gotta quit saying I say it a lot.
Oh well, I say mm-hmm.
Brando showing up for work is crazy. Starting to, you know, Johnny's starting to get paranoid. He's locking up all his guns, and then Charlie's speech is fantastic. Charlie's speech is really good at the end, and then that old school fight between him and the union guy. That's all great stuff.
Yeah.
The men refusing to work is like very communist, solidarity is power type of thing. But of course, that's what unions are. You know, unions are about, you know, well, you either give us what we want or you don't get what you want. It's very simple. It was a hell of an ending. It's a little too easy, but it's still great. Johnny Friendly's laying odds that you won't get up is a great line.
Oh, of course, that's gonna motivate him. Yeah.
That's a good line. It's it's a good movie. I think I got more out of it this time because I'm a little older than I did the first time I saw it. And I think it's one of those movies that you should probably watch a couple of times throughout your life, because it is probably going to say different things to you.
Yeah.
Because it is a movie about life, and it is a movie about dealing with a lot of, again, big ideas and big themes about, you know, the evils of the world, the evil people in the world, the struggle against that type of thing, the struggle to be an honest person, the struggle to be a good person, and how the things that you do kind of come back to haunt you.
And going the distance. Yeah.
And going the distance. Yeah.
It does turn into the sports boxing movie at the end, where it's one more fight, and they're like, oh shit, why is he trying to fight him? He's a fucking boxer. You're gonna get your fucking ass beat. So of course he has the other guys all join in, and he gets his Stalag 17 style beating.
Yeah.
But then they get him back on his feet, and he walks in. And that's one of my favorite parts, where it's like Dinner in America, where the movie keeps getting better even though it's almost over. And it's like, oh, that's just some powerful shit. And I love that dock worker who's just like, okay, go to work. Like, he does not give a fuck. He just wants the job done. It's almost like the whole joke. Like, he's been there the whole movie. Like, yeah, whenever you guys are done, we can go back to work, please. You know, you're with your shenanigans and your tomfoolery and your mob bosses.
Your riffraff.
Yeah. I don't know, boss.
With your mob bosses.
this movie and the other movie, it's very different than a lot of the more modern films. Some of the ones we've even watched for the show already, where we'll occasionally refer to as background characters, as NPCs, or these non-player characters that only have 2 responses, no matter how many times you talk to them. But in these movies, you don't have that.
No.
Everybody in the background in both of these movies seems like if you went up to them, they'd have a story of who they are, where they came from, how it all fits in. Like they're all lived in, filled out characters. Yeah,
I agree with you completely.
Like every one of those dock workers has a story, you know. They're not just blank generic in a way.
Yeah, I felt that way, like I said about Stalag 17, where it felt like every character was unique. Sugarlip Shapiro, Animal, Blondie, the guy who leads the barracks, the security guy, Duke, the fucking asshole, Sefton, the guy who's, you know, and Cookie, his, you know, simpering assistant. They all felt like they were people.
Bluto and the Toga Party and I'm sorry, that comes after.
Much later. Much later.
But not that much, right? It's about
20 years.
A good 20 years there.
20 years.
And that was John Landis, right? And we know that he was working on things as far back as Kelly's Heroes. And
yeah.
It's just crazy to think.
Kelly's Heroes, another weird kind of thing that would be off of Stalag 17, in my opinion. All those movies, I think, owe it to movies like Stalag 17. It's just a very seminal movie. I think I'm going to regret my 4 and probably go up on that one to a 4.5, I think.
Say seminal week here on.
But, and having said that, I think On the Waterfront is also 4.5 stars. I think
that's what I say as well.
It's hard to deny it.
Yeah.
You know, it's got, for me, it's just, there's a couple of little points in it where I zoned out that just kept me from giving it a 5, where I just disengaged long enough to go, okay, but I can see why people think this is some of the greatest acting, you know, because it breaks that barrier between the 2 acting styles. You know, he's the guy that kind of brings that new style in, and you don't have the acting that you have now without it, which is maybe good or bad. I mean, it depends. I think there's a lot of shitty actors out there working, but
well, they're time travelers. It's like Ethan Hawke and fucking dude from Star Wars, you know.
Adam fucking Driver, yeah.
Adam Driver, they're time travelers.
Yeah.
But I don't know if any of them are in, I would say, next week's movie. Well, next week is the Talking with Guests season premiere. But then the week after that, we'll be back with Talking with Pondo. No, Talking
with Pondo.
Where it's our opening of that format of the season, right? Does that make sense? First episode of season 3, but it's really the second episode of season 3. But we'll be recapping season 2, but we'll also be covering 2 more films.
2 more films, yes. And those films are in no particular order. Marty, we're going to open up season 2 with a film by one of the greatest directors of all time. If not the greatest director of all time. That man's name is Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
Your film is Always.
Oh, yeah, I figured. I was like, he's going to give me Always because we got to do the back door. He's not going to give me the shitty one. Well, you're getting to Spielberg a few weeks before I am. Spoiler alert. I guess I'm also going to give you something by a renowned director.
Okay, here we go.
And it also has to go back to that classic year of 1982, of course. And I'm quite frankly surprised that I'm the one who had to give this choice, because I thought when I mentioned the first movie in this trilogy, this might be the immediate response. So now that I finished off my master list of last season, I had a few run-over movies, and let's do the first one of them, Victor Victoria. The one that people seem to like the most. Yeah, we can't leave them waiting
for that one.
We did Ken, we did SOB. Let's cap it off. We finished the Before trilogy. Let's finish this one.
That's a good call. That'll be an easy watch. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about Always, but I know Victor Victoria will be an easy watch. I haven't seen Always.
You just want me to you want me to dredge up old memories of seeing Always at the theater and see if I still feel the same way about it. Well, that would be good. A good call and response there. I certainly haven't watched it probably since the early 90s.
Oh, I haven't seen it since it came out on video cassette and we watched it. I haven't seen it since then, since it was on cable.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw that shit in the fucking theater. And then I saw it on, I actually did sit through it on cable and video cassette a few more times because that's what you did.
That's what you did, folks. You didn't have the choices you had now. Yes. Yeah, you had to. You didn't have Netflix and Hulu. Yep.
And then you watched it when you rented it. You watched it on cable. You watched it a few years later when it was on syndicated, you know.
Yep. Yeah, you watched it through every window that it had. Because then it was going to disappear and you'd never see it again. It wasn't like Netflix. It wasn't like Hulu or Max where you just go, well, I want to watch Harry Potter. Okay, it's right there. No, if you didn't own the cassette, and cassettes back then were like, what, $49.95 or something, or some ridiculous price to actually own the VHS. The Disney ones especially were so expensive.
The early,
and you could only get them during certain windows. You know, if you wanted Dumbo, you bought it when it came out, or you didn't have it. You didn't own it. Period. But yeah,
just like the movies we watch today, you had to. They probably were reissued to theaters over and over again throughout the years because, you know, these movies came out in the early 50s. I mean, they're probably showing them on television at some point, but you'd still, you know, go to revival theaters and drive-ins all the way through the 80s.
I think this will be a good one. I think Always is a weird one. It gets interesting reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got like a 78 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
maybe like 50 popcorn, but a 78 on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe it's different now that we're older. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe when I was 16, I couldn't handle the schmaltz, or maybe I'll just be like, nope, still shit.
Same schmaltz. Yeah.
But, you know, who knows? And the Spielberg's made a lot of movies, so they're not all going to be amazing. You're allowed a few, you know.
Here's why I'm gonna start with this one because we'll cover some of his movies over the years here that we're doing this. This is his worst movie. If this is the bottom of his barrel, everything else is. I mean, that's how good of a director he is.
Yeah,
that guy can't make a schlock movie. He can't make a schlock movie. He may make one that doesn't hit well in theaters. But it's still, in my opinion, probably a well-made movie and probably has its moments, which I'm betting Always does.
We watched Fandango, so why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Emblem and flying. But it's not E.T. flying. Good. But we are going to 1982 also, but not watching E.T. just yet. But I'm sure that's going to show up.
It's all going to show up at some point.
And some of it some of it sooner than you realize.
Yeah. Assuming we're still doing this and you listeners are still listening. So, all right, Marty. Well, that's it. Always and Victor Victoria next week. Or actually 2 weeks.
Yes.
See you then.
Oh, I could have been somebody. I could have been a contender.
No one has ever escaped Stalag 17. Later.
Support the show on Buzzsprout for only $3 a month. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify or the platform of your choice. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page.